My name is Moray. I am a fashion designer who is obsessed with history. I make history videos on the internet on famous women from antiquity. Today we're covering the greatest empress of all time, the Augusta herself, Livia Drusilla. She is so incredibly famous. She is the ideal Roman woman. And Octavian fell in love with her when she was pregnant with another man's child. And Octavian, when he met her, he already had 2 marriages behind him. So that is what we're discussing today. However, I also wanted to discuss Octavian's 2 marriages and why they failed. Let's talk about Octavian's early life. Gaius Octavius, also known as Augustus, but we'll refer to him as Augustus when he gets his title, is born in 63 BC. Octavian's father, a governor, passes away, and Octavian is raised by his grandmother, the sister of Julius Caesar. He enters the College of Pontiffs in 47 BC, and this is where he begins his career. In 44 BC, we can see that he learns of Julius Caesar's assassination. Octavian positions himself. Octavian positions himself as Caesar's true heir. Mark Antony is going to be someone we talk about a lot in this video, and we see that Mark Antony withholds funds from Octavian because Mark Antony can see Octavian as a potential threat. Octavian has to gain many rich patrons because Mark Antony is withholding his money. However, Octavian learns many skills and networks during that process. Octavian's ability to rally veterans is a powerful thing in a time where Mark Antony was vilified by Cicero's speeches. And we talk a lot about Cicero in this video, so you should click it and have a little look. Unfortunately for him though, Mark Antony becomes somewhat of a stepfather to Octavian. Octavian is betrothed to Claudia. Claudia is the daughter of Fulvia, Mark Antony's nefarious wife, and Claudius Pulcher, who is like kind of a very nasty figure. I think he reminds me of Boris Johnson. He's kind of a pervert. Anyway, Claudia and Octavian's marriage is not successful. Claudia herself hasn't got much scholarship written on her, and people suspect it's because Fulvia is Claudia's mother, and we also made a video on Fulvia which you can check out by here. Nonetheless, Claudia and Octavian did not like each other. Not only did Claudia and Octavian not like each other, but Mark Antony and Octavian had a huge rift, and this was threatening the Second Triumvirate, which is something they were both part of. They were both allies. Let's talk about Sextus Pompey, because it's Scribonia who becomes Octavian's second wife. And Sextus Pompey is part of the Pompey family. The Pompey family are very famous. And Sextus Pompey was withholding grain from Rome. So Sextus Pompey needed to create an alliance somewhere, and he chose Octavian. Octavian, being a savage, divorces Scribonia on the day their daughter Julia is born because he meets somebody else. And obviously that's Livia Drusilla. So let's talk about Livia Drusilla's early life and her marriage. Livia Drusilla is born in 59 BC, and she is married to her cousin Nero. Now, interestingly enough, Nero is actually a patrician who fought against Octavian. Nero was closely connected to Julius Caesar's assassins. Nero was team Mark Antony. Because of all the political tensions in 40 BC, Livia, along with her husband, flee to Greece because there is so much tension in Italy. Peace is restored within the Triumvirate and is finally safe to return back to Italy. Livia by this point is already pregnant with Tiberius, one of the nastiest emperors of all time. In 39 BC, Octavian is introduced to Livia, and it's reported that it was love at first sight. Even though Livia was pregnant, Octavian had a huge hand in how Livia got out of her marriage. He forced Nero to divorce her so he could have it all to himself. As we previously discussed, Octavian divorces Scribonia and he marries Livia Drusilla. Livia's marriage to Octavian formed a new chapter. They were a power couple. She had huge control in Octavian's life. She not only improved his image, but helped him with his political alliances. Octavian defeats Sextus Pompey in 36 BC, and there's quite a lot of strife he goes through. Octavian turns on Lepidus, another rival, and then he's left with only one more enemy, that enemy being Mark Antony. In 31 BC, we see the Battle of Actium, the very famous Battle of Actium, and Cleopatra and Mark Antony lose their lives, or they take their lives. Octavian is declared the winner, and soon after he becomes Augustus. 27 BC, we can see that Octavian is essentially reshaping Rome. He's turning Rome from a republic into a growing empire. On the 16th of January 27 BC, we can see that Octavian is given a new title, Augustus. So I'll be referring to him as Augustus from now on in. He is Rome's first emperor. Because of this title, he is deemed the supreme leader of Rome. What did Augustus do in his reign? Augustus reformed the Roman military. He created the Praetorian Guard. He reorganized the provinces into senatorial and provincial categories. And the biggest cultural shift for Augustus was not only giving a platform to poets like Virgil, but he also made the family the heart of the Roman life. So he promoted good moral values. Now let's talk about how Livia Drusilla also promoted these moral values. While Augustus did not like the title of Augustus, he preferred princeps, civitatis. He made an example out of himself. He lived a very modest life on Palatine Hill. And Livia Drusilla sought to identify herself with modesty and virtue, the key ingredients to being a good Roman woman. However, Octavian was very generous. He granted her the honor of looking after her own finances, and she actually had her own business deals as well. She managed vast estates. She had copper mines here in Gaul and palm groves in Judea, so she was like an enterprising girl boss herself. She was also an expert at networking, and she worked with families of failed emperors, Galba and Otho. I'll do a video on Galba and Otho because they're such losers. It's so pointless. Before Livia, Cleopatra was the only woman to appear on coins. However, Livia was like the first influencer. Her portraiture on Roman coins solidified her image as a true matriarch. Actually, her hairstyle was widely imitated, so Kim Kardashian, look out, because you had an influencer that was way greater before you. However, we talk about women who scheme hard on this channel, and we're not leaving Livia out of this equation. Livia had quite a few plans herself. How do you think Tiberius, who was absolutely vile, ended up getting into power? Augustus had a daughter, Julia, but he really needed a male heir, and Livia Drusilla had quite a few miscarriages. In 11 BC, we see that Tiberius, Livia's son, marries Julia, Augustus's daughter. It wasn't a happy union. I mean, he's bloody Tiberius, he's vile. Tiberius was not Augustus's only heir. Augustus had a very beloved general called Agrippa, and Augustus adopted his sons as potential heirs. Agrippa's sons mysteriously ended up passing away. I wonder how that happened. Even Marcellus, who was Augustus's nephew, ended up mysteriously passing out of unforeseen circumstances. In 14 AD, Augustus ends up passing away. Now, according to Tacitus, it's actually Livia who has something to do with that, regarding a poisoned fig, apparently. She poisoned a fig that he ended up eating. Despite this, Livia was granted the title of Augusta, and she had immense power after Augustus's death, Tiberius took to the throne, and that's a story for a separate video. However, Livia Drusilla, after all this time, has remained an icon, and being the matriarch of the Julio-Claudian dynasty, that's hard work. Well, no matter if she schemed or if she didn't scheme, she's still an icon, so I think she's well worth talking about.